Before I tell you this story, I need you to do something for me. Put your headphones in, both of them, because I need you to understand what it felt like. Moving through a quiet morning, music playing, thinking about nothing, and then hearing something underneath it. Something that wasn't music. Something that shouldn't have been there. This isn't a story about a monster. It isn't a story about something supernatural. It's a story about a man I never spoke to, and a man I never got close enough to identify. A man I saw exactly twice in the span of 3 days, and a photograph on my phone that I still cannot explain. I've been trying to figure out whether to post this for almost 8 months. Every time I opened a document and started typing, something made me stop. I don't know if it was fear or if it was that specific kind of discomfort that comes from putting something real into words and making it permanent, but I'm posting it now. Because I think someone needs to hear it. And because I hope, that someone watching this might have an answer for me. Stay with me. It gets worse before it gets better. I want to start by saying that I'm not someone who scares easily. I've lived alone since I was 22. I've walked to my car in empty parking garages at midnight, taken solo road trips through states I'd never been to. I stayed in motels off long highways where the Wi-Fi didn't work and the front desk was just a sticky note taped to a window. None of that ever bothered me. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand that what I felt on the morning of March 4th wasn't anxiety. It wasn't an overactive imagination running wild before the sun came up. I know what those things feel like. I've felt them before. What I felt that morning was different. It was the kind of feeling that doesn't ask permission before it moves into your body and rearranges everything. But let me back up. My morning runs started about 2 years ago, after a bad breakup left me with too much time and too much restless energy I didn't know what to do with. I'm not a gym person, never have been. The fluorescent lights, the machines, the mirrors. I just don't do well in enclosed spaces when I'm trying to process something. But being outside, the moving through the world at my own pace with just my headphones and whatever playlist I'd thrown together the night before, that worked. That became my thing. I ran the same route every single time. Out of my apartment complex, left on Delwood, down the long block to where the sidewalk opens up at the park entrance, and then onto the creek trail, a narrow path that runs about a quarter mile along the water before curving back up through the residential streets on the other side. 4 miles, at door to door, 40 to 45 minutes depending on how I was feeling. I knew that route the way you know a room in your own home in the dark. The crack in the pavement near the park entrance that I always stepped over. The oak tree with the broken branch that hung so low I had to duck in summer when the leaves came in. The third house from the corner on Marcella Street where a golden retriever named something like Biscuit or Honey, I never actually knew, would throw himself against the fence every single morning at the exact same pitch of excitement, like each time was the first time he'd ever seen a human being. Every detail was familiar, worn in, safe. That familiarity is exactly what made it so impossible to ignore when something wasn't right. March 4th, a Tuesday. It was just past 6 in the morning. Still that pale, gray-blue kind of dark where the sky hasn't decided yet. Nighttime or daytime, it could go either way. I like running at that hour specifically because of how quiet it is. How still. The world hasn't turned on yet. It's just you and the cold air and the sound of your own feet. I was wearing a long-sleeve thermal, running tights, gloves. It was cold, that sharp, dry March cold that wakes you up faster than coffee. I had both earbuds in. Something upbeat was playing. The kind of thing I put at the start of a run when I need to convince my body that we're doing this. I was about 7 minutes in. I'd just turned onto the trail entrance, the park stretching out on either side, the path narrowing ahead of me toward the creek section. And I noticed him, a man, walking, maybe 40 yards behind me on the path I'd just left. I want to be clear. That by itself was not unusual. People use that trail. Dog walkers, joggers, and people cutting through the park on their way somewhere. I'd passed hundreds of people on that route over 2 years, but I noticed him because of the way he was dressed. March. Cold. I was in a thermal and gloves. He was in a dark jacket. Not a running jacket, not a puffer, just a regular flat dark jacket, with the hood pulled all the way up. And he wasn't walking the way people walk when they're getting some air or taking a shortcut. There was no looseness to it, no looking around. I had no phone in his hand, no dog on a leash. He was just walking, steady, focused, like a man with somewhere specific to be. I turned back around. It's nothing, I told myself. People walk in the morning. That is a completely normal thing that people do. I turned the corner where the path bends toward the creek and let the music pull me forward. Now, I have to tell you about the creek section, because understanding what I felt next requires you to understand what that stretch of trail is like. It runs for about a quarter mile right along the edge of the creek. The trees on either side are old, thick, wide trunks, the kind that have been there long enough to stop caring about anything. In late winter, when they've lost their leaves, the bare branches reach across the path and form this lattice overhead, and the early morning light comes through in broken, uneven pieces. It's honestly one of the most beautiful things I see on a regular basis, but it's completely isolated. No house is visible from the path, no side roads, no points of exit or entry except the 2 ends of the quarter-mile stretch. It's just the trail, the creek running on your left, the wall of trees on your right, and whatever is behind you. I was halfway through, and I don't know why. I genuinely cannot explain what made me do this. I pulled out my right earbud. Not because I heard something, not because I had a reason. It was just a reflex. Some quiet, animal part of my brain that was paying attention to something the rest of me hadn't caught up to yet. I pulled the earbud out and I listened, beneath the sound of the creek, beneath the wind moving through the branches. Footsteps. Not a runner's footsteps. Not that rhythmic heel-toe slap of someone jogging. These were walking footsteps, measured, even, and they were close. Too close. Whoever had been 40 yards behind me 7 minutes ago was now close enough that I could hear their footsteps over the creek. I didn't turn around. I've thought about this decision a lot since then. Why didn't I just turn around? And the answer I keep coming back to is this. Some part of me already knew that turning around would mean confirming something I wasn't ready to face. So instead of confirming it, I did the only thing that felt manageable. I sped up. Not a sprint. Not a panic. Made just a subtle, controlled increase in pace. The kind of thing that looked like a natural mid-run push if anyone was watching. The kind of thing that would put 50 yards of distance between me and whatever was behind me. I kept the earbud out. 10 seconds passed. The footsteps behind me sped up too. Here is what I want you to understand about fear. Real fear. Not the kind that comes from a movie or a story or a dark hallway in a house you've never been to before. Real fear is not loud. It does not announce itself. It doesn't give you a dramatic moment where everything goes silent and the music swells. Real fear is quiet. It settles into your body the way cold water does, slowly, completely, without asking. And once it's there, everything around you becomes extremely sharp and extremely still. That's what I felt. I kept moving. Now the creek trail ends where it opens into a wider path that connects back to the residential streets. A T intersection with a weathered wooden signpost so old, the paint has almost entirely worn away. Once you're out of the tree corridor, you're back inside of houses. Back in the ordinary world. I was maybe 200 feet from that opening when the footsteps behind me stopped. Just stopped. I didn't slow down. I didn't look back. I ran through the opening onto the residential street and past 3 houses, and then I finally let myself turn around. The path was empty. No one. Nothing. just the opening in the trees and the pale gray morning beyond it. I stood there with my hands on my knees, heart going, staring at an empty path. And I told myself it was nothing. I ran home. I didn't tell anyone. I showered, got dressed, made coffee, went to work. By 11 in the morning, sitting at my desk with a cup of something that was barely passing for coffee, I had almost completely talked myself out of it. The acoustics on that trail amplify sound from the creek. It probably wasn't footsteps at all, or it was footsteps, and the person turned around, or took a side path I never noticed, or 100 other completely reasonable explanations for a completely reasonable Tuesday morning. I was being logical. I was being rational. I went home that evening. I set my alarm for 5:45. And I told myself I'd run a different route in the morning, just to be safe. Different route, different time. Maybe I ran the same route. 3 days later, same time, same path. I know exactly how that sounds. And I'm not going to try to justify it beyond saying this. That trail had been my trail for 2 years. It was mine. And I wasn't going to let one strange morning and a feeling I couldn't even fully articulate take that from me. Besides, 3 days had passed. Nothing had happened, and I was being rational. I was about 12 minutes into the run. Already through the creek section, I'll be honest. I moved through that part faster than I usually would. And coming up the long residential stretch on the return leg of the route. That's when I saw him. Or someone I believed was him. Same dark jacket, same hood. But this time he wasn't behind me. He was ahead, standing at the far end of the block, near a telephone pole, facing my direction. Not walking, not on his phone. Not doing anything, just standing, still, in that same flat, purposeful way. I slowed without thinking. He didn't move. I crossed to the other side of the street and kept going, keeping him in my peripheral vision, trying to look like a person who was just on a run and hadn't noticed anything unusual, trying to look like someone who wasn't replaying every exit on this block in her head. As I passed him, maybe 20 feet of distance opposite sidewalks, I glanced over. Then he was looking directly at me. Not a casual glance, not the polite half nod of two people sharing an empty street at dawn. He was looking at me, with the focused, patient attention of someone who had been waiting for something to arrive. I didn't stop. I turned the corner. I ran the remaining 6 blocks. I got inside my apartment, locked the door, and pressed my back against it like I was in a scene from a movie I would have rolled my eyes at 3 days ago. My hands were shaking. I want to stop here for just a second, because what I'm about to tell you is the part that made me actually lose sleep. The part that I've turned over in my head so many times, the edges have gone soft. If you've watched this far and you have a theory about any of it, I want to hear it. Drop it in the comments. I've read every single comment on every video I've posted, and I read them because sometimes strangers see patterns that the person living inside the story can't. If this has happened to you, if you've ever felt followed, watched, tracked in a place that was supposed to be safe, tell me. I'll be reading. And if you're new here and you found this video through a search or a recommendation, welcome. Subscribe if you want more stories like this one. I post when I have something worth posting. Now, back to the story. I sat on my kitchen floor for I don't know how long. The tile was cold. I still had my running shoes on and I was getting dirt on the floor, and I genuinely did not care at all. I picked up my phone and typed something I never thought I'd search. What to do if you think someone is following you. The results were practical, measured. The kind of advice that sounds simple until you're the one who needs to actually follow it. Vary your routes. Tell someone you trust. Don't go alone. Trust your instincts. Do not confront. That last one landed differently when I read it.